Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of Day 4. We're like a minute late this morning because what were we doing, Frank?
We were bloviating.
We were bloviating. I had the Elite Series coverage from Lake Martin on one screen. We were talking a little bit of business. I was showing Frank some new rigging techniques. I'm getting ready for the Bassmaster Open on Sam Rayburn next week. So we were doing some behind the scenes bait stuff. I wonder if people would enjoy that if we just hopped on and grabbed a bunch of stuff and just BS'd about it, Frank.
It would be cool. It would be really cool.
I mean, we kind of do that in the show on this. Maybe there might be like a once or twice a month where we just spend an hour and just saying, hey, look at this.
Yeah, we could do a let's go through the boat day.
Yeah, well, I mean, those stories that we talked about yesterday when I called you on the phone, we were getting ready for today's show, which is an absolute banger. Big, ugly, nasty, cold water, off-colored, chop on the water, doom, doom, doom,
big
boom, just. But we talked for an hour on my way home from the Bass Tank yesterday, and I got off the phone, and I was like, damn, that would have been a great show.
It would have been a super show, actually.
But we're going to talk about it. I have seen some of the spinner baits that you have in your arsenal here.
Oh, yeah.
Enormous blades, cold water. We're going to dive all the way through it coming off of. And hey, Hank Cherry won on the grub on Gunnersville.
I know.
I would.
You know what's so funny about that? Because I want to talk about Gunnersville for 1 second. Here's what's so funny about that. When I was in the heyday of me fishing Lake Erie and the Great Lakes all the time, I literally had 237 hunter boxes full of 4 and 5 inch grubs, full of all the colors. Well, on the Great Lakes, it's everything that's, avocado color all the way to green pumpkin color. And of course, smoke black with silver flake. And that was the mainstay for I don't even know how many years for me. I went to the grub before I'd go to a tube, and that's how crazy it was. And the funny thing is the hot chartreuse. Okay. The hot chartreuse was like, we didn't even have that. That was in like a brown paper bag that nobody ever saw that because it was so out of the ordinary. God, the smallmouth just cremated it. But anyhow, I thought that was really cool. And coming from where he comes from, okay, his region of the country.
Hank Cherry, who won on Gunnersville last week with almost 90 pounds on a chartreuse grub on an 1/8 ounce jig head.
Yeah, I mean, it's just perfect, dude. It's just perfect. And then Blaylock comes in. He comes in second, blind casting a money minnow. All right, a young money minnow, which is. It's not ironic, but you wouldn't have thought about it until you thought about it. And what I mean by that is, here, let me backtrack. So back when the money minnow came out, you had a lot of paddle tail swim baits that were also out. You had Bastrix, you had Shadowlicious, you had the money minnow, you had all these big paddle tail hollow bodied swim baits that came out. And the funny thing about this one was it didn't seem to have that wide erratic action that like the Bastrix had. That big, how the Bastrix is just
rolls really big
rolls and stuff. This one was a little bit tighter. So in my world, okay, this was before live scope. In my world, I'm like, okay, I got 2 different action baits. I got to treat it like a crankbait. Okay. Different vibrations, different pitch and rolls and crankbaits. Same thing with the paddle tails. Well, I never really went down that rabbit hole on these paddle tails because I threw them in certain situations only, and I wasn't very open-minded. Let's put it that way. I wasn't very open-minded. And so he comes out and he takes second place, and he was catching some slaunches on it. All right. So I got that, he was throwing it on a 3/8 ounce Scottsboro head, which I like the head a lot, for slow rolling a swim bait. I like it a lot. and even on my A rigs, I use that head a lot. But the reality of it is that the bell went off, like that in your head, that da-doom moment. I'm like, oh my gosh, tight wobble, tight pitch and roll, cold water conditions, and then I was like mad at myself that I didn't associate it personally. I was like so mad at myself that I let that one escape. You know what I mean? So I thought it was really a cool deal, and it has so much logic behind it. I mean, there's so much logic behind it. I mean, if you look at the cold water crankbaits that are out there today, like the Speed End, the Speed Trap, the Rapala, the Rapalas, with that tight, tiny, tight cold water, and it's like, oh my god, the money minnow. And when I dove into this second place finish, I literally wanted to smack myself in the face, because Matt, you've known me for a long time now. I'm like an analyzing human being when it comes to fishing.
Oh yeah, I love it.
I want every detail possible. I want to hone this thing down, break it down, and I want a finite answer of why, when, and where I got to use these things. And so now I'm like, I was so upset at myself for not
just one of those things that kind of slid into the it's like one of those boxes that you put in an attic, and then 10 years later when you go up in the attic, you're like, oh, this is all good stuff that I should have been had out for the last
100%, dude. Yeah. And it's like, because back when, you got to remember, back when these hollow body baits came out, we were doing one thing with them: chucking them out, reeling them in, fishing shallow ledges, grass flats, that kind of stuff. And it was more like, in all honesty, it was more like spinnerbait fishing. It wasn't like what we do now. See, Live Scope created a new venue.
Yeah.
And even though they weren't scoping with it, you're fishing it the exact same way we did, 10 years ago or 5 years ago without Live Scope. You're fishing it the exact same way. And so it was like, I'm like, holy crap. You don't even know how mad at myself I am for not putting this together a bunch of years ago.
What's interesting is I was listening to Hank talk about it, and we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about small windows.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Where there's baits that you may not use for a year, 2 years, 3 years, but when that window opens, you're going to say, okay, that's why I have these things and haven't put them on Whatnot or eBay or sold them or given them to the high school fishing team.
Correct.
And when he was talking about that grub, you said, below 42 degrees. And I was thinking, well, when was the last time they were on kind of a current driven fishery where the fish set up, the water temperature was below 42 degrees. They were in water you could reach with grass over so that's why I never considered it, heard about it or anything. There just hadn't been a tournament that set up, and it was cool to know that, for years and years and years, these guys have little things in their back pockets that won't see the light of day, but when it's right, I think that's one of the big things that the professionals, the top level professionals, are able to do, is to identify a scenario, a situation, plan on what is going to happen, not what has happened, and then adjust to it, and then be prepared enough to have that in your arsenal to be able to pull it out when all the stars align.
Yeah, I think it's so cool. Both of those finishes, in my opinion, were so cool.
He's big mad now, though. There's a bunch of companies that are trying to take credit for the grub, apparently, and Hank has been on social media saying, don't fall for the imitators. There's companies that are all trying to take credit for the grub win. This is a custom hand-poured grub that will be out soon, but it's not XYZ. It's not ABC. It's not E. It's funny.
Yeah. I mean, it's wild, dude. It's really wild. I love when that happens, because that to me, like, that's the funnest part of fishing, is when you recognize something and you capitalize on it. And then at the end of the event, everybody's like, WTF just happened.
Yeah. And I would say that the non-scope events really bring forth like specific baits.
Yeah, I think so.
I feel like in a scope heavy event, there are extreme specifics when it comes to minnowing, when it comes to these new creature baits and all this stuff. But for the most part, you're on a very similar bait to what will most likely top 10 or win that tournament. And the non-scoping events, and from going back from covering this for the last 20 years, it's really I like to see those where a guy, like I heard on the stage multiple times, I made a little adjustment. I found a bait that I think is secret. I have something that I think everyone's not throwing. And that's where the non-scope kind of comes in, where a subtle adjustment, because you're not putting a generic bait or a bait that's pretty standard in front of 50 fish. You're trying, because you don't know what's down there.
Right.
You're trying to maybe up your catch 10-20% with a subtle color change or a size change or a rattle or no rattle or a sink rate or a retrieve speed, like those little nuances.
Right. You're 100% correct. I mean, I played with that a lot. Sink rate and everything else. That's why with jerkbait fishing and crankbait fishing, I got my line sizes dialed in to how I want that bait to go, including, which I don't care, I could say now, including lead weighting my crankbaits to actually get 3 to 5 more feet out of them. But I learned through trial and error, you can't put lead anywhere on a crankbait because you kill the action. It doesn't work. So through trial and error, these are all experimentation stuff, because here, for example, we were on Douglas and guys were doing strolling, which was deemed illegal. And so strolling is you literally bomb a cast, and then you get on your trolling motor and you let as much line out as you can, and you keep trolling motoring out there, and then you click your bail shut, and while you're trolling motoring out there, you're reeling it in. So essentially it's like trolling, and you could get your bait down 5 to 10 feet farther that way, so you could reach these deep fish, right? Yep. So I said, well, that's BS, because you can't really do that. So I got all my deep diving crankbaits out, and I started experimenting with lead tape and weight. Like I would weigh the tape, put it on the crankbait in a certain place, throw it out there, found an object in a certain depth range to see if I could hit that object. And it was much deeper than the crankbait could run. And then I finally started hitting the object. And then I'm like, okay, so I need this much weighted tape. And then I figured out where I had to put it underneath the bill so it would dive down and not lose the action of the crankbait. I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy amount of time, almost anal retentive. It didn't matter what lake I was trying it out on, because I wasn't trying it out to catch a fish. I was trying it out to reach a depth range without killing the action on the crankbait. These are the things that we used to do, way back then. Now with live scope, I could have seen it. So I could have literally just went out into the middle of the lake, cast it out, and saw how deep it went. But we didn't have that to our advantage back then. So I had to pick a rock pile that would at a certain height. So I knew when I was cranking it down there, as soon as I started making contact, I was at the depth. That's how we did it back then. We didn't have any other way to do it back then. So this tinkering and this figuring out these little tiny nuances, you're 100% right, Matt. If it put 5 extra fish in your boat at the right size, it was worth all the effort. And then we would keep our mouths shut and wouldn't tell a soul. You know what I mean? That was the problem back then. It wasn't really a problem, but like today, with social media and everything, we've got an information train that was never available to us.
Yeah. I mean, what you're talking about really, I think, originated with that book right there. That's Buck Perry's spoon plugging
100%.
book. That is basically long lining or trolling, but he'd use those metal baits to get down to fish the contours to do the offshore.
Listen, that book right there, Matt, is probably, one, it was the first of its kind to actually use structure and contour lines. The spoon plug system, which I love it because it's a system. each size spoon plug is designed for a specific depth range. So when he would go around trolling, he would troll a specific depth range until he encountered the fish. And he would keep going deeper and deeper and deeper until he came into the fish. So he had a systematic approach, which is why that book was so far ahead of its time knowledge-wise. That and I'm a structure guy, so that book to me was like the holy grail back in the day, because guys weren't really structure fishing. Really, I mean, most of the guys when I was coming up, most of them were bank fishermen. They would see stuff on the bank and fish it. They would see a blowdown, fish the blowdown, see the grass, fish the grass. Where I was one of the only idiots back in the day in the middle of the lake, bobbing around like a cork. You know what I mean? Looking for stuff that nobody was fishing on. There's a lake at home that since 1995 or 96, I can't remember, I've won every single tournament on that lake. Up until, I think, 5 years ago was the last one I won there, 5 or 6 years ago. But I haven't fished a tournament on it since. Because everybody would come in with, the tournaments would be won. They'd be won with two big fish, and there was a 15-inch size limit back in the day. They'd come in with two fish and win the thing. And I remember telling my father, I said, there's way more big fish in here than that, and I'm going to figure it out, and I'm never going to lose another event on this lake. And he made fun of me, and then I went out and I did it, and I figured it out, and I've never lost a tournament on that lake ever since. And I can honestly tell you that, that spoon plugging book was so money and very instrumental in getting an understanding of how bass related to topography. Of course, deer hunting also helps you understand how bass relate to topography, because deer move through the woods like bass move through the water.
Yeah, there's a bunch of, they're all going to be sold out on eBay now. There's a bunch of old spoon plugs, all of his system, everything available on there. This tournament, 2012, the Jeremy Starks one, he said to reach the fish, Sparkson played the long lining, also called strolling. Drivers crankbait into the strike zone for longer. I remember I was on the water. I was covering that event, and legally, as long as you were not moving your bait at the time.
Under power.
With an electric or a gas motor, these guys would cast as far as they absolutely could. And at the beginning of this event, they would then turn their trolling motor, which was just a 112 motor guide at the time, maybe a 109 motor guide tour, and would spool all their line out. Most of them were using that Abu Garcia winch because it had the biggest spool on it that you could, heavy old blue aluminum frame reel.
That's what I had.
By the end of the event, what they were doing was they were literally sitting down, casting as far as they could, pushing their thumb so the bait wasn't moving, and then idling over the school, then stopping,
and then cranking up,
and then cranking it all the way down. Absolutely nothing for what we're talking about today, but just
it's very opposite of what we're going to be talking about.
Very good. Hey, I do want to mention before we get into the show, last week I had Tom Brubaker on from Fishing Chaos. I've mentioned that on this show for the St. Jude Dick Helly Bass Classic fundraiser. Last week we went through all the details. March 1st through April 15th. This tournament is live on Fishing Chaos. Anybody in the country, you can split it up into different regions, northern, southern, big three, $25 entry fee. 100% of the proceeds go to donated to St. Jude directly through that. The goal is to get 500 people in this. It's super easy. You just go to the Fishing Chaos. You log into it. You can go over to the BTL Bass Challenge. There it is. You can see the rules, the dashboard, all that. It's your 5 longest fish. You can cull them out. It's literally a 15-day tournament or a 45-day tournament.
It's pretty simple.
You're 5, and then there it is. So there's a northern region, the southern region. There's a weekly big bass, a big 3 region. There's prizes for first, second, and third in all the regions. If you fish one day, if you fish every day, if you don't start because you don't have ice until April 12th, you can fish 12th through 15th. You can go out on the water every day between March 1st. Artificial lures, your 5 longest fish measured on a approved board and then uploaded to the Fishing Chaos app. If you're interested in doing that, like I said, 100% of it goes to St. Jude. And I did it, with the Scott Martin stuff, did a lot of work behind the scenes to get this thing ready. So if you have any questions about that, shoot me a message, matt@basszone.com, or hit me up on Instagram at Matt Pengrat. So there you go, right there. The BTL Bass Challenge. Donate, compete, win. It's just kind of brings the community together. We'll see how it goes. Wanted to do a low entry fee, and I think it's like $12,000 if we can get 500 people at $25 in across the country.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Pretty good, and it's a good cause, guys.
Yep.
It's a good cause.
All right. So we talked about this show last week.
Yeah, we did.
Off air, and then we've talked about it a couple times this week. And I'm really pumped up for this one. We're 21 minutes in, but we are approaching the time where there will be a window, especially with the weather that we've had across the South and the Central. With a lot of snow melt, the storms are coming in. That water temperatures in the 40s in a lot of the country, but warming. You have some flow coming into a lot of fisheries, and there is a specific bait or technique that I don't think there's a bass fisherman alive who doesn't enjoy this bite. Frank, the floor is yours.
It's the bomb. So we're talking big spinner baits. I mean, giant size spinner baits. And I'm just going to tell you what you need to know. All right. The most important thing as an angler that you need to know about this is exactly when and where to throw them. So we will have some clarification. In my opinion, the definition of a big spinnerbait, no matter what blades you choose, Willow, Colorado, Turtleback, Indiana, is a number 6 or bigger, which is a giant size bait. So here, I'll show you some of these so you get an idea of how big we're talking here. I call this one the cowbell. All right. And I got a story behind this bait. So this is called the cowbell. So you could see how big this blade is. I'm going to hold up a Sharpie to it. It's almost the same size as the Sharpie. It's about half a cap shorter than the Sharpie. All right. This is a 7. This is a size 7 willow leaf blade. And then what I did, the reason I call it the cowbell is you can hear it. When you cast it, it'll sound
just like a bell cow.
Yeah. So, and then I put a 4.5 Colorado in front of it. Now that's a lot of blade. This is a 3/4 ounce bait. And I've had, this is crazy. I've had this spinnerbait probably for 20 years. That's how crazy this is. So a quick story about this. I have 2. All right. So here's my other one I throw. That's a 3/4. And then this one also is a 3/4. This is done on a covert spinnerbait. Okay. This is a number 6 blade, 4.5 Colorado in front. Now, if you notice something, I got a big paddle tail. I got a Yum Pulse minnow as a trailer on this. You see it's bulky, it's big, and it's bulky. 3/4 ounce, but because the blades are so big on it and the paddle tail is so big on it, it floats. And we'll get to that in a minute. I don't want to step ahead of myself. The next thing I got are what I call thumpers. And they're a Colorado combo or a turtleback combo. Some people call them Oklahoma blade combo. And this is done on a half ounce. This is done on a half ounce. This is also a covert spinnerbait that I made. This is a half ounce with a number 6 Colorado on it. It's a big, giant Colorado blade. This thing floats in the water. And I'm going to keep using that term here. Okay. It floats in the water. Now I've got
ugly.
Oh, it's nasty, dude.
In a beautiful way.
Right. So I've got a chartreuse and lime green and blue glimmer or white skirt on it. I have a ringtail worm on it because I want vibration. I want stuff to pulse. And here's the thing, okay? I use a black worm because I want the contrast around the body. This has been a secret of mine for decades. I want the contrast around the body. So that's my thumper. Now I got what I call baby food lids, baby food jar. And the most famous one for me is the Booyah Night one. That they made it for night fishing with the black nickel blade. They made it for night fishing. Okay. So here again. All right. What I did was I took the blade it came with off and I put a one size larger blade on it. So here it comes with a 5.5. Here I put a 6 on it.
It's the size of your head, Frank.
Yeah, swear to God. So this is what I throw at night. And then I've got a black paddle tail on it because I want it to move a lot of water. I want the black to silhouette against the moonlit sky. Slow roll this thing. I mean, it's just money. So anyhow, so that's the kind of spinner baits we're talking about. I'm not going to talk about night fishing, so I'm putting this one away. We're not talking about night fishing. We're talking about normal daytime fishermen. So here we got to talk about the conditions. All right, we have to talk about the conditions. The best time for these big giant cowbell things is early spring. Now, early spring towards the northern region, late winter in the southern regions, because late winter gives you this down south. Late winter gives you the same water temperatures, same conditions that early spring does up here. The other thing we're looking for is off-colored or dirty water. All right. Now, everybody says, oh my God, the worst conditions are dirty water in the spring. They are, unless it's been stable for a while. And if it's off-colored, it's much better. The third thing you want is wind. The wind is important in this technique. And then your depth range, usually you're fishing 6 feet deep or shallower. There are exceptions to this, but as a general rule, that's your window. Okay. The other time, you know, like I said, the other time of the year that you could fish a big bladed spinnerbait, and you could do it all year long except in the winter, is at night. But we're not going to talk about night. I'm staying away from the night game.
We'll do that in the summer.
Yeah, we'll do that in the summer because the night game, dude, the night game is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So those are the conditions. Now, your locations, like I'm kind of rushing through this a little because I want to show you some things on the deep dive app, but I have to get through this first so you understand.
So foundation.
What you're looking for. So locations. Brush-filled pockets with defined drains, weedy pockets with defined drains, weedy banks with deep water against them, channel banks with wood cover, big boulders, or grass. And then here's the big trigger. You have to have the wind. The wind makes this pattern insane. And so that's what you're looking at. So now that I said that, you need two things. You need two things to literally lay out the lake and where you're going before you even leave your house. You need the deep dive app and you need your topo maps. You need your contour maps.
Technically, you don't need them. It just saves you a day and a half.
Yes. Well, right. Because you could literally, we're going to do it right now while we speak. Okay. Now, the only thing I'm not going to be able to show you is the mapping unit.
Yep.
Because we can't pull them both up at the same time. So we're just going to go with the deep dive app, but I kind of know where we're at. So the lake that we chose was random, Old Hickory, So what I have on here now is I have my water clarity. And so with the water clarity situation going, you could see that we could literally, I'm just going to, I'm going to.
So these are the current conditions right now. So this is the watercolor. So
Right.
anything that's lighter blue is where the cleaner water is. It's a river system. It's just after this big cold front, so you can see that there's water pushing
Right.
through the lake, and
So
that there are
that's
areas of the lake that are dirtier than others.
right. So that's clean.
Yep.
So we're eliminating that. We're not even going to look at that. Now we know from what I talked about, we need, brush filled pockets, drains, et cetera, et cetera. So now we're going to look, and what I like to do is I'm going to go, okay, so here's what's standing out to me right now is these little areas right here, because they're short, manageable pockets. All right.
And then you see down here that green color shows that it's stained water,
right?
Not dirty, but stained.
It's stained. So now we're going to look at that, and I'm going to tell you this: the channel goes like this over here. Okay, so now I know that I have a channel bank near these pockets. So chances are we're going to have good drains in there. We're going to have good drains,
which you can actually go to your layers and see if there are drains in the back of them now.
Right. So I can go like this. I can go to the layers. I can go to water flow, and I can see that there is actual actual drains in this one, this one,
and you can do stream inflow too.
And so we could see that, okay? But more importantly than that is I want to make sure that we have, oops, I got to get rid of this. I made a mistake. I want to make sure that what we have is that we have our channel banks coming in here, because dollars to a donut, there's going to be a split in this creek channel over here. We're going to have the same thing in this one, where we're going to have the drain's going to come off the lake, and it's going to split into here like that. So that's what I'm looking for. So now I'm going to clear all this out, and we're going back to our water clarity, because that's what I want to see right here. I want to see that. And so now, with that being said, we know that we could come in here and we're going to find the right conditions for this. But here, we got to look at the wind, because if the wind's not right, this isn't right. So I'm going to go to my wind app. Boom, I'm going to hit on the wind, and we have wind that is actually blowing exactly how we want it for this. The wind is actually blowing right into these places. So this is exactly what we want in this condition. We want the wind coming in here. Now, I would not, this technique, I would not touch these at all, because with this technique, you have to have the wind. The wind breaks everything up. And also what the wind is doing is it's pushing all the plankton in there, and your big shad are feeding at them.
Go down to that wind and then do the previous wind, like scroll back on it to where it was like yesterday, February 11th, where it'll actually show that it was a little bit hotter. Back the other way. The other way, towards February 11th. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Now you're really going to see how it was previously too. So now you're also saying these fish have been set up because for the last 2.5 days, that wind has been blowing directly into those areas we want to fish too.
Exactly. Now here's something that's really important. It's really important. The reason this works this time of year, okay, is because your shad are big. They're big bait fish. The young of the year haven't hatched yet. These are big bait fish. The bass are accustomed to seeing these big fish. And so that's part of the reason it works. The other part of the reason it works is because your plankton gets blown with the wind. Plankton moves with the wind. Bait fish don't move with the wind. That's a mistake. They go where the plankton goes, because that's what they feed on. So now you've got these feeding zones in these areas. And that's how and why this thing works.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable. So we're going to have to talk about fishing these things too, because it's not just a chuck it out and burn it back to the boat kind of thing. Okay. Matt, you had something to say?
No, I just look at, so I mean that white mark on the furthest right on the screen, where you had a live drain on the right, you said it's split, and then you can see there's secondary point that has wind on it. You have the 5 marks, the furthest one to the right. Like if you can zoom in on that pocket. Yes, right there. Like to me, like that looks like a really good, like out of all the things that we just talked, that looks like a really good starting spot. And then you can
100%.
see there's like 1, 2, 3, there's like 4 or 5 little key secondary points in there that seem to match identical to what you were just talking about.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's really cool. I mean, this is doing your homework before you go can save you so much time when you get there. Because here, let's look at something here. That is a lot of water that you have to cover. But by using this, we know that we can narrow it down, because all we got to do is start running down looking for all the hot spots with all the right stuff on it. And remember, I also said channel banks with cover on them. And so this qualifies as a channel bank.
Yeah. How about that one right on the back side of it, on the top right corner there? See where that's a little sneaky pocket that's on a channel swing?
That
nope,
one?
Nope. To the further to the right next to where the red circle is, where the red, blue, green, and white circle is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that looks freaking interesting to me too, because that's like a channel swing up there too. Now I don't know what the water clarity is up there, but like that's some sneaky little wind stretches that you wouldn't think would be getting hit by the wind there, but they are.
Yeah, it's off color, perfect. I mean, it's perfect. But this is what saves you time, because time is of the essence when you have one day to do this. And so if you could narrow it down and you could go, we're going to go here, 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 and here, then you're automatically saving unbelievable amount of time, because you don't have to run, look, and see. And with a system like this, the way the lake serpentines, turns, and everything else, the wind will be different in different sections of the lake. So you could go through this and find the different sections of the lake where the wind is in your favor, but also the watercolor. Because if you're doing this pattern, this is irrelevant. This is irrelevant. You know what I mean? You could start seeing this is irrelevant.
I'm seeing some channel bends that seem to be quite a bit cleaner than other channel bends.
Like
too.
that one there is a little bit cleaner. Like this section here is good. This section here is good. This section here is good. And then so on. You could do that all the way down the whole system. You could find out what you need. And so that's why this is important. This stuff was never available to us. We never had anything like this.
I mean, the closest thing you would have to do is, before it was illegal, if you had a classic or something, it
was a flyby.
And that was in the summertime. But I mean, there were, a lot of guys you hear about doing flybys, and saying, okay, this section is muddy, this section is clean. Right. And that was the only way to find it. And instead of spending an entire couple days doing a freaking lap around the lake.
Oh yeah. And same thing with grass. I mean, you'd fly by to see where the grass was the best. But that's a lot of money, and it's a lot of time, and you didn't have that available to everybody.
Yeah.
So this app is like, I mean, it's crazy because it simplifies things. And here, look, I always said that I was never the smartest angler in the room, so I had to work 10 times harder at everything to figure it out. This app cuts that time down to nothing.
Yeah.
Where I would spend literally hours and hours and hours on a lake, not even fishing, just looking. this app cuts all that down.
Full disclosure, sponsor BTL, sponsor day 4.
Yeah.
But I also went through 5 or 6 different apps and said that not something that I use or would use or would promote.
Right.
When this thing kind of came out and did it, I was still hesitant because it's a app on your phone. It's like, oh, what can an app do? But it is the data that you can combine on this app. It's not a fish here, do that. You can kind of use it like that if you want to, but it's the data can combine the previous, the forward, the that is invaluable.
Right, because here, look, we talked about brush-filled pockets with defined drains. We talked about weedy pockets with defined drains. We talked about weedy banks with deep water, channel swings, boulders, grass, wood, blah, 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 right? Yeah. So we know what we're looking for, and we need the wind, and we need watercolor. So we have basically the 4 bases you need to make this work for you. So the only thing we're missing now is actually how to fish these things. And I have to be honest with you. I got a story. I was fishing with Frankie, and we were on a lake, and it was traditionally a super clean, super clear lake. And we got out there, and the wind was horrendous. Like, it was horrendous. Like, I couldn't even keep the boat. If I was working parallel to a small flat that came out and then dropped off, and I couldn't even keep the boat parallel because the wind was so bad that I'd have to keep the nose of the boat out and cast over the outboard. So I told Frankie, I said, pick up that cowbell and start chucking it up against the bank over there. And he's like, what? Give me that thing. And so he starts throwing it, and he starts wailing on him, dude. And the water against the shoreline was dirty from the wave action coming on it, right? The rest of the lake was clean, but the water over that flat was off colored, and he smoldered him on this thing. In fact, this is the actual spinnerbait he used, and he smoldered him on it. So even in lakes that you don't think would apply, if the conditions are right, it can apply. So you have to do that. But here's the important thing I want to talk about, fishing these big baits like this. The first and probably most important thing you need to know is slow down. Okay, you have to slow down. With these oversized blades, even though this bait is 3/4, well, this one's a half, this one's 3/4, even though you're throwing the heavy baits, because you oversize the blades on them, they'll float in the water.
Big Christie thing. Jason Christie, notorious 3/4, 1 ounce, big blades on it, throwing it on Grand in a couple feet of water, and you're like, you know, you would say, well, why aren't you throwing a 1/4 ounce? Why aren't you throwing a 1/2 ounce? He wants a big bait that he can keep down with a big. And if you've watched him in the classic or anything that he does, I mean, a 1/2 ounce is tiny. He all those coverts, 3/4 ounce, 1/4 ounce, like big, gnarly, ugly ones.
Right, because it's a technique. And so my rule of thumb is I fish it so I can just barely see the flash of the blade under the water. And when you roll this thing by a log or a chunk of grass, the only thing you're going to see is a white thing come out at it. You don't see flashes of nothing because the water's off color. You see a white thing come out after it. And then if you're lucky, it'll blow slack in your line because they eat them with a vengeance. And so it's one of the funnest. Oh God, it's so visible. It's so much fun. And when you're slow rolling it down there, you just feel that thing going whoom, 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 whoom. It's just this is fun because it's all your senses are being utilized here. But the key I got to tell you guys is you got to slow it down. First of all, when you oversize a bait like that, if you have any tendencies to burn it or run it really fast, you have to go to the heaviest head you can because it'll roll. If you don't slow it down enough, it'll roll because the blades are oversized. And so it's not really in balance at high speeds. It's more in balance at low, slow roll, right? And so that's the whole key. The Colorados and the Oklahomas, you could actually slow roll them where they're bumping bottom and have the same effect with them when you're bumping bottom.
Kind of some of the things that we talked about here. They came out with this when it came out, but that Covert series, water temperature, water clarity, when it comes to the actual color and kind of blade combination, really cool thing that they did. Came out with a couple of years here. And I would say, especially for Oklahoma, you could tell Jason probably made this because it's exceptionally accurate.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
But so it's really a cool technique. It's like I said, it's something that it doesn't happen every day. But if you're lucky enough to know when it does happen, this will listen, when you're throwing these baits, you're going after a different food chain.
And you're going after 6 to 8 bites a day or 4 to 8 bites a day.
But they're the right bites.
Okay, let's run through everything we talked about. And I'll just ask you the questions. We'll just do quick instead of explaining it. So we're looking for stable but stained.
Early spring.
Off-colored water.
Yes, early spring up north, late winter.
Which is water temps from 40 to 50.
Yeah, I would go 40 to 50 because I've done it in 40-degree water temperature. I would go 40 to 50. Once you start getting into the 50-degree range, there's a lot of other stuff going on.
We're looking for wind. And we're looking for a combination of cover, whether that's wood, whether that's grass. Docks can be considered.
Yes.
Cover on that. Riprap, things like that. And we're going to focus on slowing down with these big baits. Half ounce minimum, 3/4 to 1 ounce.
Correct.
Now, the one thing you haven't talked about is tackle for this. Gear speed on your ratio, what type of rod you want, because I know that's important. And
super important.
I mean, from what I've seen, I mean, guys throw flipping string on these things. I mean, it's not a 12-pound test on.
No. I'm throwing 17 to 20 fluorocarbon. I'm throwing it on a 7.5 foot medium heavy. And I'm using a slow speed reel. Like back in the day, I used to use the purple winches all the time for this. Now I'm using a BB1 lose. I got a 5-1 to 1 and a 5-6 to 5, whatever it is. It's 20.
Yeah, 5-1
23. My 5-1 to 1 is 21 inches a line per turn. My other one is 23 inches a line per turn.
We're putting a contrasting color trailer on it, even though it doesn't look exceptionally pretty. So if you're throwing a white and chartreuse, a coleslaw color, something like that, you want a very solid colored trailer behind it to give those fish a little bit of contrasting view on it.
Right. So and you're going, for the most part, you're going big trailer on them.
Bigger than what you would. You want to make sure that that thump, whatever is moving, is below your strands of your jig so that it doesn't combat that. So you've got the thump on that.
Right. It has to move.
We're not putting a trailer hook on this because
no trailer hook on it, because you're actually going to roll it around and bang it into everything you can. That's the thing. The trailer hook, if the spinnerbait rolls on you, the trailer hook will connect to wood, especially wood. Now rock, not so much, but you're looking for gnarly stuff in the water. You're not looking for a smooth transition here. This is combat fishing. Your heavy line, big rod, slow retrieve, and that's the whole technique. And and you have to remember, you got to be doing this when the bait fish are big. Can you catch them on it? Can you catch fish on it doing this when the bait fish are small, sure you can, but you're taking percentages way out of the equation. And when you're fishing for success, you want all the percentages and all the variables in your basket. Fish will lie to you all the time. You can always catch fish doing something, but how many are you going to catch and what size are they? So you want all the variables you could control in your basket, and you're fishing percentages. That's how you become successful, and that's how you become consistent. You have to keep the percentages in your favor always.
All right, here's an example of spring, off-colored water, Jason Christie, 3/4 ounce spinnerbait, big trailer on it. Watch how he fishes.
Is this Grand?
No, this is a different lake. Rod tip up, reeling it slow. See, look, he's got the exact thing. He's hitting the high percentage stuff. He popped it. Look how slow he's reeling it. Absolutely yaks it.
I know. Dude, I can't. We got 18 inches of ice here. This is driving me insane.
Boom. There it is. Look at that big hubcap on there. Fish had that thing absolutely choked. Big trailer on it. Good fish.
Yeah, that's a good video. And that was more Main Lake-ish, channel type stuff. But you notice the boulders were gigantic on that bank.
And it was wind and it was overcast and it was slightly off-colored water.
Right. Ah, man, this is so good.
Fast action rod on that. All right. Obviously, one of the crazy things when you get into it, you didn't have anything with colored blades. Is that more of an Oklahoma thing with Eufaula and Texoma and all of that stuff that we have available, or is the colored blades a nationwide thing? I feel like it is an Oklahoma.
It is definitely. It definitely was predicated around Oklahoma, and I didn't understand it until I went and fished with you down there and saw that most of your lakes look like shit all the time. And so then I realized that okay, I get it now. Like I get it now. Now I've used the red bladed one up here and caught fish on it, but
it's a pike killer up north.
Right. But that's exactly what I was just about to tell you, is that if you want to catch more northern pike than you know what to do with, just throw the red one, because you will catch pike that if you're a pike guy, throw the red one. But so what I found here, and I experimented back in the old days, like I experimented with copper blades, brass blades, bronze blades, black nickel blades, red nickel blades. Like I still have boxes of these anodized blades in my basement. And there was a tournament on the Ohio River where I was using a copper blade, a Colorado combo copper blade, and caught the crap out of them on it. And then I was like not catching them anywhere else I went. And so then I said, okay, I got to figure out what colors, because I used to carry blade boxes in my boat where they're just full of all different spinnerbait blades. And I would make my spinnerbaits on the water when I was fishing.
We've done a show on that, building your own spinnerbaits.
Right. That got to be really complex.
You and Mark did that show. That was one of the early ones.
Yes. That got to be really complex in competition, because it's time consuming. So I started weeding things out where I would say, okay, these are my blade combinations that I have all the time. These are my have to have for certain situations. And so the ones that I have to have for certain situations, I pre-made them all, because I only had, 4 or 5 of them with me, because they're not going to apply at all the conditions. Then I had my spinnerbaits that I will throw anywhere, anytime, no problem, pre-made those. And then I would have blanks with no blades on them. And I would have some oddball stuff. And then I would make those. Like I was on Smith Lake in Alabama, and I brought a guy from a local tackle shop up here called the Rod Maker Shop. He wanted to pre-fish with me. It was one of my first elite events, not the first, but one of the first. And I was out there practicing with him. And when we got there, I pulled up to a bluff bank, and I had my standard spinnerbait on, and I was slow rolling it down the bluff bank. Now, honestly, I was paralleling it, so he was just watching. I was paralleling it, and I saw two of them bird dogging the spinnerbait, and they wouldn't touch it. And so I said, Glenn, we got to make a note. When I get back to the hotel room, I got to make a spinnerbait. He's like, what do you mean you got to make a spinnerbait? I go, they don't want this one, but I can tell by the watercolor and conditions what I got to do. So long and short of it is, catch a bunch of fish that day, some flip in, some big worms on, bluff cave-ins, some on jigs, kind of random, but not random. We got back to the room. I tore into my spinnerbait boxes, my spare stuff, and I started building these spinnerbaits. And he goes, dude, what the hell? I go, we're going back to that bluff tomorrow morning. I got to see if they're going to trigger on it. And we went back to that bluff, and my first cast, the first fish choked on it. And then I made another cast. I got another one, choked on it. I said, we got to go to the other bluff. I ran to the other bluff. Boom, boom, same deal. And I said, oh my God. And he sat there and he goes, I don't understand how you made a spinnerbait and it works. Why wouldn't another one work? I said, blades were too big. Color was way wrong for the watercolor. I put a real muted skirt on it. It was really muted. In fact, it looked uglier than crap, but it wasn't vibrant. And I downsized the blades because the water was super clean. And so I downsized the blades. And that's how, that's that experimental thing. But that's time on the water gives you the ability to recognize that.
All right, let's make this really simple. If you were to just get a handful this time of year that works for across the majority of the country, I'm going to give you a couple that I have full confidence in, and then you can have a couple that you could get on LureNet right now or whatever spinnerbait you want. Get them off LureNet. This is actually what we use. I throw the Covert and the War Eagle and some Strike King. Those are my three kind of spinnerbait brands. I used to throw Picasso. Picasso had like a really badass spinnerbait. It was like kind of oddly shaped. It was phenomenal spinnerbait. But a willow leaf Colorado blade 3/4 ounce War Eagle, gold on the bottom, silver Colorado. The 3/4 allows you to slow it down. It still has a big willow on the bottom that just feels right. And then the Colorado blade allows you to slow it down. And the 3/4 ounce allows you to keep the bait deep. Put a 3.5, 4-inch swim bait on the back, glue it on because War Eagle has bad keepers on it.
Yeah, you have to glue it.
And I have 30 unopened 3/4 ounce in Hot Mouse, Chartreuse and White. My favorite color is Spot Remover, actually.
Yeah, good
and
color.
Then keep them in the package. The beauty of the War Eagle is they are phenomenal straight out of the pack.
Yeah.
After you throw them for a couple days and then put them in your box, they will get a little rusty. The hook will get a little rusty. So either when you're done for the day, go in and bring a hairdryer with you, or use your wife or your girlfriend's, or if you're one of those guys who has flow, your hairdryer. Dry that spinnerbait out and put it in a Ziploc with a moisture packet in it, and that's how you can keep the War Eagles good.
Yeah, so I use these. These are heavy duty Ziploc lure bags.
Yep.
This is what I do with mine. I put them in there, and then here to proof in the pudding. This is a spinnerbait they don't make anymore. Rippler Lures used to make it. This spinnerbait's 20 years old.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, obviously, I redo the skirts and the trailers on them, but it's 20 years old. And it's always in a Ziploc bag, and it's always dry before I put it away. And they'll last. Now, this hook's getting beat.
Yeah.
I mean, this hook's getting ripped.
Yeah, well, you can sharpen it. A lot of those spinnerbait hooks are you can get down past the surface rust on them and resharpen the point.
Yeah, 100%.
But then Colorado-wise, that one right there, if you're in the muddy, if you're in the central, that and 3/4 ounce is...
That's a 5 or a 6 on that.
That's a number 6 Hildebrand on it. That's almost impossible to beat if you're not a big fan of that. You can go with the silver above and the double Colorado, like that will catch them, especially in the colder water, 3/4 ounce, same thing. Now, here's my question to you, and you touched a little bit on it. I have always seemed to have more success. Shockingly, I've thrown a spinnerbait quite a bit in my day. I absolutely love it. But I seem to have way more confidence with a gold on the bottom and a silver kicker instead of a silver on a bottom and a gold kicker, or two of the blade colors that are exactly the same.
Now, what
I
are you
don't know why.
Now, what are you calling the kicker? The front blade or the back blade?
The smaller blade, the black blade. Like I like that gold on the bottom in almost all situations, and I don't know why. I don't have a good reason for it.
I do.
I just like the way that looks. Am I off on that? What is your take on just? I know there's painted and all that stuff, but gold versus silver for your flash.
It's the watercolor. You're talking about off-colored water. The gold stands out better in it. My favorite spinnerbaits that I fish all the time in a lot of conditions, I have a gold Colorado in front of a silver willow. Okay, but you notice all these baits are gold. I have on my thumpers, I have silver in front of gold, and on my Colorados, I have double gold. Because of the conditions I'm fishing them in. So there are times when you're going to want the reverse, where you're going to want gold in front of silver, and in the off-color water, I want silver in front of gold. And I like the combination of gold and silver because it makes the spinnerbait look deep. It makes it look more alive. Okay. And so that's why I like the dual combination. But for the most part, like in my everyday normal spinnerbait fishing, I'm gold in front of silver, except for the big blades.
And you can slow roll a giant willow like you just showed. You can also slow roll a Colorado or an Indiana. But when are you going to slow roll a big willow over a big Colorado or vice versa?
I like the willow around grass more, but I've had equal success with both. The Colorado will have a tendency to thump harder, float higher on you. So what I try to do is, depending on the cover that I'm fishing and how deep the cover is really what I go to. If I'm fishing it dirt shallow, I'm going to probably stick with the Colorados because I can keep it off the bottom. I can keep it slow rolling, and I don't have to reel it in super fast so it's not dragging. Little bit deeper water, the willow's nicer because the willow blade, though it's large and offers drag resistance, the Colorado is what's going to give it the lift on it. So I oversize the Colorado, big willow, oversized Colorado. I get the lift out of it, but I can fish it deeper. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Basically, as I fish the thing, you kind of get a feel for what you need to throw when and where. And if I'm big spinnerbait fishing, in all honesty, I got them both on because I alternate.
This is the other thing that drives me nuts. And I've spinnerbait fish with, co-anglers have it a lot on the back and stuff, is I don't know why, but there are some spinnerbaits, almost like a swim bait, to where when you're reeling them, they instead of tracking 100% true, when you reel them, they have a tendency to turn.
Yeah, so here, let me show you.
Does that drive you nuts, or am I overanalyzing that?
No, I fixed that. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna show you. So here's how you could tune a spinnerbait, just like you could tune a crankbait. So if I reel the spinnerbait in, and I'm reeling it in, and I'm pointing it to you face first. If I'm reeling it in and it's tipping this way, then I'm gonna take the top part of the arm and I'm going to bend it the opposite way it's turning. And so what that's going to do is that's going to create more drag on the side that it's the opposite side. Like if it's turning this way, you bend it this way, it's going to create the drag and it's going to start to enable your spinnerbait to ride straight.
Okay.
And that's how you tune it. It drives me crazy when a spinnerbait's not running in the water straight. If it's running sideways like this, I lose my mind. So, but you could tune them and you could get them to run straight. The other thing is you got to realize something. At that point in time, your trailer might be too big, too bulky, or not long enough. Long trailer keels better. Short trailer doesn't keel as good. Long trailer keels better. So these are little things that you could, doll around with when you're out there and see. Like I have certain trailers that I use on certain spinnerbaits because they keel it way better. But you could tune a spinnerbait. Now, if you have to over tune it, then you're out of balance and the blades are probably too big, or your arm's too long, or your arm's too short. You know what I mean? There's a million reasons. Spinnerbait fishing is funny because there's a lot of variables that go into making a spinnerbait run the best. Mm-hmm. And so it's more than just one little thing usually. If you can't get one to tune up right away, you got to look at the length, the bulk of your trailer, and then you got to look at your blade sizes for the type of spinnerbait you're throwing, because some spinnerbaits just won't manipulate with big blades on them.
It's interesting. A lot of the War Eagles, and I'd heard this, they're harder to find in the 3/4 ounce now. Like the ones that I like, that gold silver kicker 3/4 ounce spot remover color.
Yes, but you could change your blades.
Yeah.
The blades that are hard to change on are your titanium arm blades, because you have to heat it a little bit to open it up to get the blades off that are currently on it. Mm-hmm. And you can make mistakes. War Eagle, you could change those blades a million times.
Okay. There was a question about that earlier. Lincoln said he's had problems with split ring deformation when swapping in the bigger blades.
Right. Okay. So it basically, the split rings that are on whatever swivel you're using are not very high quality split rings. And when you put the blade on the split ring here, I'm going to try to show you that. I'll never be able to show you.
So there's specific like spinnerbait split rings that you would never use like with a crankbait or anything, because they're thinner, which allow you to have a larger diameter, get through the little ball bearing and your blade. You can purchase those. So if you're going to a bigger blade where there's more blade that would foul up a smaller split ring, like if you went from a 4 to a 6 or a 7 like that, you would probably have to upsize your spinnerbait split ring there.
Right. Do you see how much room is between the tip of the blade and the swivel?
Yep.
That's about what you want. You don't want the thing riding all the way up to the swivel.
Yeah, that's horrible.
It's horrible. You want it as far away from the back of the swivel on that split ring as possible.
Yeah, James Netcraft, any of the places you can get the spinnerbait split rings to attach the blade to the high quality barrel swivel.
Right, because they have to be able to go into the back of the ball bearing swivel and go and be through the hole without.
I've had that same issue too. Then it gets deformed. Then one of the little edges isn't absolutely perfect, and then it gets stuck in the split swivel, and then it just doesn't feel it. Yeah, you throw a blade.
Spinnerbaits are. Spinnerbait fishing is so much fun. I mean, I can't. I'm beside myself when the bite's good and I'm on it. It's just so. I'd rather throw a spinnerbait than a chatterbait. Unfortunately, the chatterbait's proving it's a little bit more versatile in some situations.
Jim says he always tracks the weather 3 days before the tournament. Is he overanalyzing the game?
No, not at all. Not one bit. You have to, because your conditions could change overnight. Your conditions can change in 6 hours. I mean, on the James River, I had it going on, and they had a torrential downpour that lasted for 2.5 hours in the middle of the night. They got like 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches of rain, and it blew my stuff out. And I had no idea, because I was sleeping like a baby when it happened. And I had no freaking idea. When I made that long-ass run and got all the way up there, my jaw dropped.
Now, even if you get up to somewhere it's muddy, like, and you weren't planning on throwing it, let's say you make a run. I've done this before. Like I run up a creek. I'm planning on fishing the gut. I did this a couple years ago in Alabama. I was going to minnow the gut, throw a jerk bait in it. There was water. There was mud pouring in. and I just turned around and left. Come to find out, there were 2 top 10s that were out of that creek. Both of them were slow rolling big spinner baits. Now it was fresh mud. They weren't catching them in the back because I had some brush piles in the back of this creek that I had some fish on that I was jerk baiting. They were out more towards the front where the water was stained, but those fish got out of the fresh cold mud, went to the front where it was mixing, and they were throwing big ugly spinner baits down 45-degree chunk rock banks.
Yeah. So what I do is I look for the transitional watercolor.
Yep.
I learned that from fishing in North Carolina when the red, when
you
the
have
red
a bunch
clay.
of that. Hopefully, Rick is on the mend. I know he's been dealing with a little, but he said your thoughts on colored blades, white blade, chartreuse blades.
Okay, I love color blades for certain conditions. My 2 favorites are double white and double chartreuse. Usually I'm smallmouth fishing when I'm throwing them. I have caught a lot of largemouth on double white, but only because they were using the same areas as the smallmouths were, to be honest with you. I have a buddy of mine that throws a colored blade. It's lime green, chartreuse, and white blend, and it's a dynamite spinnerbait. And you know, he loves it.
Confidence deal.
Yeah, it's a confidence deal. I have specific times when I throw the color blades, and most of the time I'm smallmouth fishing.
I know Christie's talked about the color blades where he feels like that's why he has that polished Hildebrandt that's on those coverts, and he feels that the thump on a painted blade is duller.
It is duller.
The crisp edge of that Hildebrandt in either the gold or the silver cupping and catching the water, and it cuts through it, and there's more drag and creates a bigger, harder thump than a painted blade.
I am in 100% agreement with him. All my spinner baits are Hildebrandts, except for one that I make is a Terminator blade. But all my spinnerbait blades are Hildebrandts. I agree. Now here's what you do. This is what I change. Smooth to hammered. There are times on some of my Colorado blades where the hammered blade is the money. The hammered blade here. Let me give you a tip since we're talking spinnerbaits. Let's do this. The smooth blade represents one big flash. When you take a smooth blade and then you put another blade in front of it, you're getting 2 different flash patterns now. You're getting the small flash pattern from the small blade, the big flash pattern from the willow leaf. So now that looks like could be 2 fish. When you go to hammered blades, the hammer blade breaks the light up and it's more flickering. It looks like more of a representation of a few little fish together than one big fish. So in clear water conditions, I have a tendency to go hammered because it breaks the flash up. It breaks that flash up. And that's what you need to know. The smooth blade is one giant flash. The hammer blade is multiple little flashes.
Frank says, how much does heavy line affect your spinnerbait?
Okay, so to be honest with you, I'm throwing spinnerbaits on 17, 20 almost all the time.
Yeah, and the guys like I throw it on 22, 25, which if you look at the diameter of sunline, it's the equivalent of most other 20s.
But I don't very rarely go below. In fact, I almost never go below 17 on a spinnerbait. They're not going to be line shy. If I'm slow rolling spinnerbait, I used to do that a lot on the ledges. Take 1.5 ounces and slow roll it on the ledges. I still would use 17 because it scared me to have such constant bottom contact with lighter line.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would go up 1/4 ounce on it. So if I was throwing 1 ounce, I'd go 1.25 ounces. I'd go up with it to compensate. But for most of my spinnerbait fishing conditions, the bass don't give a crap about the line. That's not what they're seeing. And it doesn't affect your spinnerbait. So I'm throwing what I need to throw when I get one. I can jack it and get it to the boat.
Lincoln, we will not be answering that question in this show. Ever play with little spinnerbaits for bass? The name of the show is Big Ugly Spinnerbaits. So we will have a show called Little Pretty Spinnerbaits.
Yeah, I do have some
that
minis
we will have later. I've got a story for you. So when the Elites years ago went to Ross Barnett, I was doing a lot of on the water coverage for the Elite Series. I'd go out with a guy during a day of practice, and it was pre-spawn on Ross. I believe that's the one like KVD won it on a jerk bait in the pads. And
gosh, that's excellent.
And or that might, yeah, Connell might have won that one, but KVD did. It was back around that time frame. Anyway,
I'm with you.
I was in the boat for a practice day with Gary Klein.
Okay.
And I was just sitting there shooting photos and video and stuff. And as he went through the pads, and it was early spring, you'd see a gizzard shad roll every now and then. And there were those 6 to 8 inch gizzard shads, and he noticed it a couple times. And then he sat down and he's like, I cannot let this pass. He's like, I've noticed this, like I need to make a change. And he digs around in his box and he pulls out a rod. Then he digs around in another box and he pulls out frames for his spinner baits. Then he digs in another box and he pulls out this like Ziploc bag, and he pulls this blade out, and it is a willow leaf blade that I did not even know was in production, in existence, had ever been made. It was a full size of this 16-ounce can right here. It was a 6 to 7 inch long willow blade, and he puts it on a 3/4 ounce spinner bait, and it looks ridiculous. I mean, the blade is hanging 3 inches below the spinner bait. It's basically like he had put a mag spoon on the spinner bait.
Yeah, he was throwing about a 7.5 or an 8.
I mean, a monster. And he had to even throw it on a flip stick because A, it was in the pads, and B, it just moves so much water. And he would cast this thing out and the blade would hit the water and it'd slap the water. That's how big it is. And when he would reel it, the rod would just go woo, 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 woo. And it was only like 3.5 foot deep. And you could just see in this muddy, muddy water, you could see just a little bit of the
flash.
Well, no, of the water like rolling up because it was moving so much. It was so dirty you couldn't see it, but you could see, you know, like how you could see like a little, like after when you hit your boat in reverse and then like 5 feet behind the boat is where 10 feet is where it was doing that every crank on the way in. And he slow rolled that thing around those pad stems with just a monster early spring willow leaf in 3.5 foot of water, imitating gizzard shad for pre-spawn largemouth on Ross Barnett.
That is so money, dude. That is so money.
I've never seen anything like it in my life. Like, he gave me a couple of them. I still have them in the garage afterward. Like, I have never, like, the way the blade spun, it wasn't like it wasn't, it was
just no.
Woof,
yeah, no, it's like a prop on a boat. That is so excellent. Yeah, I love it, man. You know what's funny? I was getting kind of like I don't get to travel too much to fish anymore, and I'm missing some of the really big, beautiful impoundments to go to because there's so many opportunities out there for so many things. So, you know, with the advent of, you know, live scope and all these new techniques, it kind of gives me a little new burst of energy because I'm breaking down things locally that were never available before, and it's kind of fun.
Yeah,
it's super fun.
That was the one. The Connell won. Van Dam finished second. It apparently did not work that well for him in the tournament. He finished 79th. But
hey, but you know what though? Dude, it could have easily gone the other way.
Yeah, and it was one of those things, like I was filming, it would be like a practice day. This was before, you know, a lot of the stuff was instantly public, and he requested, hey, don't include this in the video.
That's fair.
A decade ago.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's 100% fair.
I just remember just was sitting, like, when, you know, you reel it up and I'm sitting in the passenger seat like this, and I'm like looking over and I'm like, God, blade's that long.
Yeah, he's got
it's that wide on it. It looks like a Ben Parker mag spoon tied on a freaking 3/4 ounce spinner bait. It looked like a beetle spin after he put that blade on it.
That's so money, dude. That's great. Yeah, it's fun, man. It's so much fun, you know. But just experiment with your trailers. If you get any pitch and roll on that, if you get any tilt on that spinnerbait,
Make sure that trailer's on straight.
Yeah,
you have a tendency. There's nothing I hate worse than you get a nice trailer on there, but then when you're making little roll casts, you're casting it. You might be skipping it around. You're casting it up shallow. You're putting a little force on it. It gets ripped up. You get a little horseshoe in your trailer. Oh, there's nothing worse. Get a little bit of fishing glue. Get that sucker up on there, nice and freaking strong and perfectly straight. Spend the extra time. There's nothing I hate worse than a crooked trailer.
Oh, I can't do. That's my pet peeve too.
Oh, a crooked trailer. There's nothing worse than a crooked trailer.
Like, you know what the worst is? When it's drizzling misty out and you got to put another trailer on. And the thing is slippery as could be. You can't get it on right. I've literally torn 3 or 4 off before I got one the way I wanted it on. It's like, it drives me crazy. I can't stand that.
100%. It's so like if you zoom in, and like I said, I am like a War Eagle kind of fiend. If you zoom in on the War Eagle, there's like no keeper, but you see this little deal right there. So I like to put like a 3/8 Kitech on the back.
Oh yeah.
And it works fantastic. But you make one little skip cast or you catch a couple fish and this collar no longer holds your Kitech, and then all of a sudden you reel in and now the head of it's down here instead of flush up against there.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of going rah, 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 and you're in a tournament and you don't want to fix it and you didn't know where your glue is, and oh, that is just an absolute pet peeve of mine.
Yeah.
Where it wallows out the plastic.
Right. So here's the thing, okay? So when you put the trailer on and what I do is I smash the trailer right up against the back of the skirt like that, because then what happens when you tip the spinnerbait over, it bellows out the bottom part of the skirt. And so when it's in the water, you get a much better teardrop shape on it. You get a much better teardrop shape because it's bellowing out from the top of the collar.
Mm-hmm.
So I ram my stuff up there, but I could teach you how to put a keeper on that hook.
Yeah, I know. But like I said, I never take them out of the damn pack. And I mean, I have like my game day War Eagles where I'll have a practice one and then I take that sucker out about 5 minutes before I'm about to chuck it.
Yeah, I will doctor mine up before I fish them, and then I'll put them in these.
Coverts have a really good trailer keeper on it.
Oh, yeah.
That's because they're designed to fish with a trailer keeper. I think a lot of the War Eagles are designed, to fish without it with a trailer hook, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the keeper system on the covert is good. Like 1 drop of super glue, if they don't rip the trailer up, you could fish it all day.
Mm-hmm. And I noticed all your trailers for the cold, muddy water for what we did, they're all paddle tail style. They are not the split. They are not the straight tail.
I have 1 split tail on the big cowbell. I do have 1 split tail because I want this bait to imitate the shad, and I want a real slender profile on it. So I have 1, but most of them are paddle tails or hook tails. I'll throw grubs on them too. Big 5-inch Kalen grub trailers on them too. But the paddle tail moves way more water, and it helps. It just helps with everything. So that's what
let's just talk about minnows and chatterbaits. He doesn't want the big blade secrets out on the open market.
Yeah, well, they're secrets, but they're not secrets. They're just not getting the attention and love they deserve.
I would say there's a lot of. I don't know if we'll get to see it this year. We might get to see a little bit this year. I'd say there's a lot of guys on the Elite Series that you wouldn't expect to be really dialed in on their blades. I think we're that are dialed in on their blades.
Oh yeah, I think we might see it. I mean, the problem is they're going to get more towards summertime, and what I'm hoping is we start to see a resurgence in big build crankbaits. That's really what I'm hoping for, because I know one thing's for sure. I love them. I absolutely love crankbait fishing, and we need a good tournament win on some big build cranks.
I think I've showed this before, but yeah, there's nothing wrong with telling a story twice.
Tell the story twice.
I gotta find it here first. Here it is. This is the I've showed this video before. I mean, I sucked. Well,
what the heck are you talking about, dude?
I've got to get to this deal right here.
You are so funny, man.
I sucked in the tournament, but this is early spring, Kentucky Lake. This is that big spinnerbait. Cash a check at a Toyota like this. Watch. Let's see if I can pause it. This is exactly. Oh, never mind. I'm going to catch one on it. Look at that. Look at that pre-spawn. Look at that pre-spawn rock, though, Frank.
It's so nice, too, man.
And that's like a 50-yard stretch of it, and the rest of it was sand.
That's why that's money.
On the backside of a secondary point. I caught 4 fish in this entire tournament, finishing the top 25. Let's look how old it is. I'm throwing the ducats. Boom, I caught it.
Nice.
Look at that big giant willow leaf right there. With the friggin' trailer on the back. Spit my dip. Look at me take that thing out.
That's great.
I went down this bank. I threw the big spinnerbait all day in that muddy, off-colored 45-degree water. Had 4 bites for like 13 pounds. Look at that big spinnerbait sticking out of that fish's mouth right there.
God, I love that. Love that.
Just slow rolling. Exactly like we talked about. I've got it right here. This will be interesting this year, Frank. I got this one. That's that new Osmo 5. And then I just can't bring myself to at 41 to put on a chesty with the thing like that, but I got that on. And I'm going to record. I mean, I'm not going to do the music and all that stuff behind it because I'm 41. I'm struggling with am I too old to do all this stuff and be like, I'm here for the open, but I'm going to go back to kind of
just documenting
and recording that.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you? I mean,
I feel like it helps me slow down. When I did it, I actually caught way more fish instead of getting in a rush. And now, especially since I don't have a co-angler, it's real easy to get in your own head. And the next thing you know, it's 7 hours later. If I've got the camera going and I'm sitting down and I'm explaining it, like what I found was, even the people are like, oh, that would take 10 minutes out of your day. But it's that 10 minutes that recenters me and makes me make a rational decision instead of just being in my head.
If it's good for you, then there's no point in not doing it. If it's good for you, if it gets in the way of what you're doing, I wouldn't touch it. Like for me, it would get in my way.
Oh, that thing would be in the bottom of whatever lake you were on in the first half hour.
With no
by choice, not by accident.
With no questions asked. I have to be not doing everything else. I have to be doing just tunnel vision. Otherwise, I'm done. I'm done. Out of it. Gone. I'm trying to get this iPad closed.
Oh, we're good. All right. Next week, I will be at the Bassmaster Open on Sam Rayburn, which means the following week, we may double up a show and do an evening show. And
when you get home.
Yeah, when when we get home that following week, and do maybe a little trial run of just some evening chats. No topics, no nothing. People who want to come on and talk about the last 300 or last 232 episodes, any questions that they had, any stories they might have. Maybe it's been a while since we have opened up the hotline to where you can jump on and join the conversation.
Oh, that'd be cool.
We'll knock 2 out that week. Really, I was planning on recording one this week, but as you know, I got married on October 25th, and this is the first Valentine's Day married, and then Court's been out of town for the last 4 days. So
Say
I
no
also
more.
leave Valentine's Day morning to go
Say
down
no
to
more.
Rayburn. So that means we have to have everything, all the festivities taken care of today and tomorrow before we leave. So I
You're
have to
good.
go
I'm good. I wouldn't
procure some items.
I wouldn't even blink an eye, Matt. Wouldn't even blink an eye.
Yeah.
We're good. Yeah, I got my 31st wedding anniversary was yesterday.
Oh, so you have wedding anniversary and Valentine's Day in a 6-day period.
Yeah. 31 years, man.
Probably no stress after 31.
Nah. After 31 years, it is what it is, bro.
I hear you. All right, this has been another edition of Day 4 with Frank SCALISH. Big, ugly, nasty, dirty.
Big spinnerbaits.
Big hubcap. What'd you call them? Baby food jar lids?
Yeah, baby food jar lids.
We'll talk to everyone later. See ya.
Bye.